Strictly for the culture. Brothers and sisters, you have seen the t-shirts, the hats, the hoodies, the mugs in the hands of some of your favorite pro wrestling stars, podcasters, and influencers out there. And now it's time. Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca and you too can be part of the movement. Bigger than sweatshirts and commercial success, Strictly for the Culture aims to build with like-minded people and elevate their position in the world through knowledge, self-love, and a desire to unite. So what are you waiting on? Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca. Do it for the love. Do it for the knowledge. Most importantly, folks, do it strictly for the culture.
Locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
This is the young Professor Matt Grafer, Chief Potassium Enthusiast for the Savannah Bananas, and you are listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. Recently, I was able to witness history on so many levels. And I'm getting emotional just even thinking back on it because it was just so surreal. Fenway Park. Here in Boston, right? The place where I was born and raised, my home. Fenway Park. I was able to see a sold-out baseball game that did not include the Red Sox. No, brothers and sisters. This sold-out baseball game, one of the greatest spectacles I have ever had the pleasure of witnessing. Our friend, the young Professor Matt Grafer, standing in the middle of the field, sold out Fenway Park, the music blaring, the fans cheering, everything going on. Oh my goodness, what is it? The Savannah Bananas. So there is no way on God's green earth I could tell you about this special day without bringing on our special friend, somebody who literally we've been documenting his journey each year, and each year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. This guy, he's a big deal now, folks. He's a big deal. Welcome back to Duke Loves Wrestling, the young Professor Matt Grafer. How you doing, my friend?
Duke, I'm doing great, buddy. It's so good to be back and chopping it up with you here. Yeah, we've been through a lot together. This show has kind of caught it all from the first time I showed up in January of 2019 when I was working wrestling shows out of a medical supply warehouse. And now you last saw me at Fenway Park standing in the middle of one of the most historic sports venues in the entire world in front of nearly 38,000 people. It has come a long way.
It's interesting because even before that, we saw you on Monday Night Raw, which is just crazy. You and a bunch of the folks from the Savannah Bananas, you're at Raw. You got a chance to do a interview after Raw, which is still up on the WWE YouTube page, folks. You definitely want to check that out. And goodness gracious, I mean, Xavier Woods was wearing a Savannah Bananas shirt. It's like, brother, you have arrived. I mean, does it feel like you've arrived at this point?
It's a very weird feeling. I when we saw Xavier Woods wearing it in the show, I remember I saw a video of him wearing a Savannah Bananas hoodie a few weeks before, and it blew my mind because I have New Day t-shirts here in my closet in my home. I was wearing those, and now that guy is wearing a brand that I'm affiliated with, and that kind of stuff really does trip me out. It doesn't feel real most of the time. I mean, this is my life and it's there, and I don't think I take it for granted, but maybe a little sometimes because you're in it. But sometimes you have those moments where you step back and you feel like you're in the twilight zone. And that was one of them for me, for sure.
Your hard work through pro wrestling got you to the Savannah Bananas, and then your hard work through the Savannah Bananas got you to Monday Night Raw. Talk to me just about the full circle nature of that concept.
It's weird, but it's not unsurprising when you think about how this all works, and you look at how the WWE recruits their talent, and it rarely comes from a direct path. From what you see, especially on the broadcast end of it, or their announcers, or any of those folks, they don't come from the indies. Typically, that's just not the way they do it. They want to see people who are talented in a number of different realms and arenas. And I recognized that pretty early into my sports career. I started with professional wrestling in 2018. I was working for a promotion that was around at the time called Go Wrestle, based out of Daytona Beach. And within that same year, I started working as an on-field host for the Jacksonville Sharks, an arena football team. So I was splitting my time really between those two things. I was still hosting live trivia nights in bars and restaurants. And then I just started adding more and more. It was MMA, it was art battles, it was DJing, it was emceeing. I did the World Cup of professional paintball. That's a huge thing that I had no idea even existed. I realized early on that the value of me as a performer was not in trying to stay in one area. It was trying to take that same skill set, refine it, and put it into as many versatile situations as I could, to kind of maximize my value and show that I could really do things anywhere. That's what wound up leading me to the Bananas, which has made me better than I could have ever imagined, just because of what we do. The nature of what we do enables someone in my position to do so much and to be so creative and to really get some significant, meaningful reps in that the WWE would even consider having a chat with me on any of their platforms. And so it was a very surreal moment. But when you think about, again, how they go about their recruitment process and how they go on putting people on, especially in those roles, it kind of makes sense at the same time.
I wonder about your family, because they've been with you throughout the journey. So it's like, okay, Dad's going to be doing this wrestling gig thing. That's cool. He's a professor. He's a trivia host, what have you. Now he's doing the wrestling thing. And then, obviously you've done other sports. But then the Savannah Bananas come along, and it's like, okay, Dad's doing this baseball thing. And what is this baseball thing? The Savannah Bananas, and this is kind of wacky. Okay, it's entertainment, sure. But like, dude, you've been on ESPN. Like you're selling out Major League Baseball stadiums. Like you're about to embark on a world tour eventually. This is like crazy when you look at how big this thing has grown in such a short amount of time that you've been with them. How's the family receiving all this?
I think they've received it pretty well as they can. Certainly, this is not something that any of us had anticipated when I started any of it. I mean, I literally started as a trivia host just to make more money. I had gotten laid off from my professor job, my first professor job. They got rid of my program, and I took a crummy sales job that was awful and was like a significant pay cut. And I needed to make up the difference somewhere. I have 4 kids. It's those of you that are raising families, those of you living alone, you know how expensive it is. So add 4 kids and all that to the mix. The bills need to get paid somehow. And so I had always wanted to host trivia. I used to like playing the games. So I started that, and that took a lot of my nights and a lot of my time away from my family, but they knew it was necessary. And you start adding all of this other stuff over the years. It has just evolved. In some ways, they've grown accustomed to it. In other ways, it's harder now than ever, because most of what I did was pretty close to home for a long time. Like even when I would do gigs, I literally used to do more gigs. I used to do over 200 events per year. I mean, I've come on your show talking about that and checking in around this time of the year, halfway through, saying I've worked 100 something events this year. I haven't this year in 2024, but I've worked in front of more people than I've ever worked in front of already in those 6 months. And so I'm not working as many events, but I'm on the road more than ever. I'm in a different city every week. I was just in Nashville. I'm getting ready to go to Las Vegas this weekend. I'm going to Indianapolis the weekend after that. I'll be in Buffalo, New York. I mean, the list goes on. And that is challenging for my family. And especially when they're in school and my wife and I are like ships passing in the night, it's definitely a challenge. And you hear those stories about wrestlers in particular. That's always where my frame of reference is these guys being on the road and how did it affect their families. I'm starting to experience that, but the best that I can do is be present when I'm home and really trying to do that, which is tough because my job is still demanding even when I am home, because we're writing the next shows, we're getting ready for the next thing, but trying to be present. And then when I can, taking them along with me to experience some of it with me. And I've had that chance the last 2 weeks. We drove up together to Boston and got to experience what Boston has to offer. And they got to experience that show at Fenway Park that was historic for so many reasons. And then they came with me to Nashville and they all got to work the games. You know, my older kids got to work and get paid. My younger kids got to be the bat boy and the bat girl for the Bananas and the Firefighters teams. And so at least some of the trade-off of my time and my presence being gone from them is that when I am around, I can at least afford my family these rare opportunities that most people don't get, that they at least have some good life experience with them, which I hope keeps things in balance.
You know, one of the things that I noticed at Fenway Park is, Danny G and I, we were fortunate enough to be there early as part of media, so we got to be there while rehearsals were finishing up, and the sausage was getting made, so to speak, beforehand there. And it reminded me of last year when you folks were in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I was watching Jesse, and Jesse was just a bag of nerves and running around in Brockton and what have you, and trying to make sure everything was the way that it needed to be, which everyone can relate to that. When it's your baby, you want to make sure that it's the best presentation you can make it. Fast forward to Boston, and Jesse is still running around and putting the final touches on things, but I noticed something. This guy looked a hell of a lot more relaxed, and it at least seemed to me that he was relying on his team even more than ever before. It didn't seem like he had to do everything. He was being a true manager. He's being a true leader and trusting that you guys would hold up your end of the bargain. And in fairness, the execution of the Savannah Bananas at Fenway Park, one of the most historic parks in the history of Major League Baseball, you guys sold it out. The execution of what you did, I just looked around and I saw those kids smiling. I saw those parents laughing and having a great time. I saw the concessions. They were jammed. People were buying all kinds of food and drinks. I saw the merch tables. They were all long lines. Brother, your team knocked it out of the park, which, again, kudos to Jesse for building a team that could actually support himself and the vision the way that you folks do. What do you think about that?
I mean, our vision and our hiring is really everything. I mean, everyone talks about the show and the quality of the show, and we receive a lot of accolades on that. But the truth of the matter is, it's the people. It's the people executing it that make it as special as it is, because there is just such a high degree of work ethic, unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, I'm not as young as most of the people I work with. I've had my fair share of jobs. I've worked in many different corners and pockets of entertainment, and I have never been around, number one, so many talented people at what they do. And I don't even mean the performers or the baseball players. I'm talking about everyone in every corner of our organization is talented beyond measure. And then you have the work ethic. And that goes back to the vision that is set forth from the top and the hiring that gets executed to put the right people in those right positions. And we have it. And I think what you saw with Jesse was good. And we've had we call it big league Jesse, because when we're it was kind of the same thing when we were at Minute Maid Park. He had a strange kind of calm about him that we were able to move on and get going. He's still Jesse. He still is a perfectionist. He still wants to have his hand in everything, which, I mean, I get it. I understand it. I mean, this thing, he doesn't like to take all the credit, but without him, this all doesn't happen. He's a lightning rod for talent and for ideas and for execution. And he has this tremendous need to be involved on as many things as he can, because he is our visionary. And he, we still see that a lot from him, but at these big league ballparks, it almost seems like he does step back, and this way he can kind of maybe enjoy it himself and let us do what we do. And we've only done it twice so far, 2 big league ballparks, but I think we've done a pretty good job of doing things the way that he would want us to do it, so that we could provide this kind of experience that you and so many others have had to have at these 2 big league ballparks so far.
It's been excellent. I mean, legitimately, it's my favorite show on earth right now. I think that you folks could argue it's the greatest show on earth, ironically, right now. It's just the mixture of entertaining and just everything that you could need to have a good time. There's no way you could go to a Savannah Bananas game and not have a good time. It's impossible. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how old you are, from a baby all the way to grandparent. Everybody can have a good time at something like this, for sure. Professor, why don't you let everybody know what's the best way that they can keep up with the Savannah Bananas and yourself?
God, just type the Savannah Bananas into any search bar you got, and it doesn't matter what the platform is, and you will find a plethora of content that you can dive down the rabbit hole to experience. But most of our handles are at the Sav Bananas across most platforms. For me in particular, my platform, all the platforms you can find me on, it is at Young Professor G. And as the Bananas like to say, Duke, I know we're talking about how far we've come and where we're at, and hitting a place like Fenway Park. We believe it, and I think it's true. We are still in the first inning of this thing, and we have a long way to go.
Well, you certainly do. It's amazing, because in the first inning you're crushing it. So you've only just begun, and it's I'm just proud, man. I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of you in particular. In fact, let's close it on this, Professor. For anyone out there who has a dream to be anything, and it's not an easy road, and even if they've begun and they've hit some roadblocks and some bumps and what have you, what advice do you have as a guy who started off at the lowest possible level as a commentator, and now legitimately you are one of the key voices for one of the biggest brands and the fastest rising brands in the entire world? What do you have to say to folks?
I would say study those who are great. And that has been the one thing that I have done pretty consistently throughout my time as a performer is I read and listen to as many things as I can about those who have come before me and done great things, and not even just in my own industry. When I started out, it was a lot of wrestling podcasts. It was a lot of listening to Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson, and just kind of listen to them break everything down and how it all came together. And that branched out into other wrestling podcasts, which then went into other areas. I'm a big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just put out a book this past year that is phenomenal. I can't recommend that enough. I've read tons of books about Walt Disney. I listened to podcasts about how James Cameron got where he is, and how Steve Jobs in Apple. I've listened to podcasts about Napoleon Bonaparte, and how a guy from a little tiny island that was a French territory became one of the most revered conquerors in all of history. These people are great, and they got great all by the same method, essentially. And it was just hard work and betterment. Like they all had talent. And I think you do have to have some talent already there, but it's the work ethic. It's this constant desire to build yourself up to be great, and study those who came before you, because that is how you can continue to better yourself. And that's all it is. I don't come from anywhere in particular. I didn't have any special connections. I didn't know a soul in wrestling, in sports, in football, baseball, anything. When I started any of this, I was just a regular dude who grew up in Rahway, New Jersey, who was, a professor at a career university. I couldn't be a Harvard professor, but I was at Kaiser University. But I was able to take all of these things and build and build and build and build to the point where I'm in a place now that I never could have imagined. But at the same time, I can see it and I can look at how others have done it and let people know that it is possible. Just you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? And are you willing to do what it's going to take to get there?
You know, it's always fantastic when I get a chance to catch up with the young professor, Matt Grafer. Just a great dude, has continued to accomplish all of his dreams, and it's fantastic. Just when you think you've seen the last of him, it's like, don't believe me, just watch. He comes back even bigger, even better, and that's what's just great about a show like Duke Loves Rasslin, because, again, we document this stuff, so you get to see it. I'm going to make a Matt Grafer mega mix. I'm going to get that done before the summer is over. I'm just going to take everything that we've done, put it in sequential order, and put it on YouTube in its own little playlist so you can hear all of the transitions that this guy has had through the years. It's fascinating. It really is. So I'm going to make that a playlist there so you can hear it. It's cool. Historic day at Fenway Park. Savannah Bananas versus the Party Animals. It was just unbelievable. Again, seeing the crowd, especially the children, having a great time, the parents loving it. It was just magical. You know, it really was. And it was a great thing to share with our man, Danny G. Danny G is just a regular guy from New England, hardworking guy, family guy. The fact that he was able to be out there on the field at Fenway Park with me as press, you know, special invited guests here. We're working, of course, but to experience something like that from that perspective is just tremendous. And I'm glad, once again, Danny G was able to experience that with me. He was FaceTiming his family and all this stuff there. I mean, it was awesome. It really was awesome. So we did get a lot of footage. Definitely I'll be putting out various videos on social media as time goes by. The audio itself is tough. So I had to make some decisions here because, listen, folks, we were doing interviews during sound check and music is playing in the background. If I air that stuff with the music, I'm probably going to get a copyright strike. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Both YouTube and Facebook, they're probably going to try to whack me on that. So I cleaned up as much as I could, and I'm going to air some of the conversations that we had, including a little bit of Danny G and I speaking. So please forgive me for the audio. You know, the volume might seem a little low because there's so much noise in the background. Once again, this is Fenway Park. We were there. I do want to get some of this stuff on this episode, though, because, again, historic stuff, great stuff, and you can hear the excitement in everyone's voice in real time there, which is really, really cool. So take a listen to a couple of interviews, and then Danny G and I are going to take us out with some thoughts on the Savannah Bananas being at Fenway Park. That's right. We are back here with the top banana himself, the head banana himself, Jesse. He is back home and he's at Fenway Park. How you feeling?
It's a special night for me, obviously growing up here, but so many people, all the players that had dreams of playing here, and now to be here, it's beyond words.
Talk to the kids out there, man, from Dorchester, from Roxbury, from Mattapan. You see a guy like you and say, you know what, maybe I can be a big deal, make it to Fenway Park somehow.
You're bringing up some memories. I had so many Little League games back in the day playing against those towns. And, I think obviously dream big is the easiest way to think, but just have fun, whatever you do. This game of baseball was built to be fun, and that's what we really truly took banana ball to the level to make it fun to the highest degree. And so whenever you start to have fun, you have fun, you work harder, and you put more hours, you put more time in it. And so that's what we try to do with these guys, these players, our band, our bananas, our banana nanas. We're having the time of our life. We have fun, we work harder than anyone else, and amazing things happen.
We are back on Duke Loves Rasslin. We're here with
Brandon Crosby, a.k.a. Showtime.
Showtime. Where you from?
I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
How does it feel to be at Fenway Park playing on the field, brother?
Man, it's truly a blessing, man. Dream come true. It's amazing, man.
Now, we heard that you personally are pretty big on TikTok. Talk to me about that.
Personally, man, I'm growing, man. This is my first year, but this is a big part of being a Bananas, being on social media, being on TikTok, man, reaching the youth. And it's been super fun, man. You just go out and be yourself and, you know, stay consistent, just like you stay out here. So it's been fun.
How about a shout out to the family?
Man, shout out to my fam in Richmond, Virginia, 804. I love you guys.
We are back with the Savannah Bananas, and we have none other than the hottest pitcher on the team, Scooge. What's going on there, Scooge?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great myself. It's a beautiful day, beautiful city. Can't wait to play some ball.
What did you just do right now that was just like Jackie Bradley Jr.?
I threw the ball at the center field here at Fenway Park from behind home plate. It's a video that I've basically been trying to recreate all year. Everybody says, oh, this has nothing on Jackie Bradley Jr.'s throw, so I figured I had to come here and see if I could do it for myself, and I did.
Now, word on the street is that the party animals are not going to be embarrassed here at Fenway Park. They plan on knocking the Savannah Bananas out. What do you say to that?
I'd say just check the scoreboard of the last time we played at a big league park. You know, I think we're ready for it. I don't think they know what's coming tonight.
How about a shout out to the family?
Oh yeah, shout out Mama and Papa Scooge. I wish they were here. They couldn't make it tonight, but yeah, I know they're at home supporting me. That's for dang sure.
All right, this is the Duke from Duke Loves Rasslin. We are here on assignment at Fenway Park for the Savannah Bananas. You got that right. And we have with us here the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Media Relations. He makes it all go round. Sam, the man, Bowman. How you doing there, Sam?
Oh, I am doing great. I'm in Boston. The weather's beautiful. We're ready for a great game.
You sure are. Now listen, tell me about the best part of the Savannah Bananas being here at Fenway Park.
Oh my gosh, I think the most exciting thing for me is what it means to the guys on the team out here. Obviously, everybody's thrilled to be here in Fenway, but knowing some of these guys who as kids played this sport, grew up dreaming of playing on fields like this, and knowing they get to come out here in one of the most iconic fields in the entire country and all of baseball and play to a sold-out crowd, it gives you chills just thinking about what it means to these guys.
Now, we know that the Savannah Bananas are a little bit based on WWE wrestling, you know, the showmanship and what have you. Who is your favorite pro wrestler?
Oh, man, you know what? That's a great question. I'd have to go a guy who joined us on tour earlier this year, John Cena. I mean, not only a talented wrestler, but a heck of a guy. We talk about fans first all the time. When he came out to our game in Tampa this year, he took pictures with every single one of our players, staff members. The guy took time and he performed. He went out on the field and put on a show for everybody.
There is a reason why we call him Sam the Man. Sam, thank you very much, and God bless you and the Savannah Bananas.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's the Duke here with Danny G. We are live from Fenway Park. Danny G, what do you think of the excitement here?
This is like something you've never ever seen before. We're in the stadium. It's 2 hours before the game even starts, and I'd say the stadium is about a third full already. It's loud. It's exciting. It's nuts. It's a family atmosphere that I've never experienced in my life. It's crazy.
The Savannah Bananas legitimately selling out Fenway Park. Could you ever imagine something like this at Fenway Park?
Well, this year they're definitely going to sell more tickets than the Red Sox, that's for sure. But no, normally, I mean, years ago, nothing like this would have ever done that. But now, you know, with the social media presence that they have, this is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The streets, the people are partying on the streets with their kids. It's a great time.
What do you have to say to your family, Danny G?
Shout out to my boys. I called my son from the field on Fenway today, so you know I'm sure he's a little bit jealous, but you know, shout out to all my family, my hot wife, and everybody else out there.
Till next time, be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.